Hello again, my name's Stefan, and this is my YouTube channel, The Coherence Path. And today I wanted to talk about sometimes when you have ambition to do something, but you just don't feel like it. You know, it's just one of those days or one of those moments that it doesn't matter if somebody offered you $1,000, you wouldn't want to do it. And I thought of this topic on this video because that's kind of the way I was feeling myself. I'm just about ending a kitchen remodel that I've been working on for quite some time. And, oh, by the way, I am standing next to a road next to this nice river. So it's a nice juxtaposition between the calm, peace, tranquil, but effective and prosperous metaphor of the river moving through life, and the sound of the bustleness of busyness of humans driving about doing the things they do. So there's some times in our lives where we just don't feel like doing something. And, you know, somebody from the outside may say, well, you're just being lazy. You're not getting up off your hind end. You're not just getting up and doing what you need to do. And maybe if you were a boss and your employee was feeling this way, well, if they did it enough, maybe you'd be right. But if they did it just once on a blue moon, you thought, well, you know, maybe they just need some time off. And I think this is a very normal thing that we experience as human beings. There's just some days we are not motivated to do much of anything. Our only desire is possibly to maybe watch some YouTube videos like you're doing now, or maybe to just stay in bed all day. And that's perfectly fine. You know, what are the feelings that we have sometimes when we go through these things? I know for myself, I could look back at my life and remember there was a lot of interesting and different experiences and events that happened in my life. And sometimes the way I felt was if somebody had just picked up a big boulder and just set it right on top of me. And it didn't matter how much I tried to struggle from underneath that, I just wasn't going anywhere. And that's the way I felt. And then there were other times I had plenty of energy and, you know, even ideas. I might even have felt a rush of energy, like, I could accomplish some stuff today if I want, or this idea sounds fun. But the mundane task or something I had to do that day just didn't seem interesting. There was nothing you could possibly do to get me to try to do that. So we go through these things in our lives, and it's perfectly natural. And the best thing I think we can do, and that's what I've tried to do, is to just take in the moment. Try to feel whatever we're feeling and just acknowledge that that's the way we feel. Now, it may be that just after acknowledging it, that we end up getting up and maybe doing that, whatever we were supposed to do or thought we should do anyway, or maybe we just can't face it. Maybe it's some emotional trauma or some conflict that's going on presently in your life with family members or friends, or just your personal journey, like you need to go find a job or work on your car because it'll save you money if you do your own brakes. There's so many things that we as human beings face in this life, and it doesn't mean we're always ready or desirous or able to do them. And stepping back from those situations and taking a moment to honor how we're feeling is an effective way to just sort of touch base with our inner compass, if you will. And that's what this channel, the Coherence Path, is all about, is me just sharing experiences and ideas that might help you direct or find your own compass. And your compass doesn't have to be pointed the direction everybody else's compass is. True, we're all going to learn, hopefully sooner than later, that being an actual good person and a caring person and somebody who actually is demonstrating love and not acting it, hopefully we're all headed in that same direction sooner than later. But along that path, we make personal choices. And that's our free will, allowing us to direct how our personal compass is going to navigate our own path of coherence. And when we know that we are navigating our own path, it just feels better. If we're trying to force things, if we're trying to make stuff happen, if we're trying to tear down the walls of, whatever fortress we're going to take over, sure, there's an appropriate time for that. Perhaps you have a business that, you need to get the remodeling done or set up the marketing program or hire people to do things. And you just got to move some energy and make some connections and get stuff done. And that's all fine. But that's from the approach that you are empowered in the moment and you're inspired to do it. There's going to be other times where you wake up and go, what the heck was I even thinking? Why did I start this company? Why did I even think that I was capable to do this? And do I even want to? And those are just feelings a lot of times that come up. Because on the average, if you look at things in your life, and funny little squirrel up there, if you look at the average of your life and you see that, well, what I'm doing is, I feel really at peace with it, and I feel that I'm in alignment or on the path of coherence with it, then that's where you should be. So you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have days you don't feel like doing everything. So take a break. Take a day off. Take a moment off. Whatever it is. Take a week. Go visit a friend. It's very common knowledge that if you take a break and do something different, not only will you be able to just sort of recharge, but a lot of times you get inspired ideas that lead to where you need to go. And then there's other times you're doing something that on average just doesn't really fit into the picture of what you really want within the core of your being. And that means that, well, you can make changes, but maybe today you just don't feel like it. Maybe, relationships can be challenging. Maybe you've been in a relationship that just isn't working out. Maybe it's negative or it's just not what you want, whatever it is. But today is just not the day you feel like taking action on that. And that's okay. You know that when you look at the averages of how you feel within that relationship, it's just not what you want. But today may not be the day that you just feel like doing anything about it. And that's perfectly fine. Don't beat yourself up over it. Don't make yourself feel bad because you're not living a perfect life that somebody else is living on YouTube or in some magazine, which is all really an illusion. You're looking at those people for a fraction of the time that they're living their lives and interpreting that everything else is perfect. Like I got up today and got my youngster off to college and thought, today I'm gonna take it easy, but I'm gonna get something done. And I think I'll go out and shoot some YouTube videos. That sounds fun. Because the thought of finishing up some of the fine details of painting these cabinets I've been working on, it just didn't sound fun. There's no part of my being that felt good about it. I just didn't feel like doing it. So I'm not going to kick myself. I'm not going to beat myself. Stefan, what the heck is wrong with you? You're a grown man. Why don't you get in there and just get that work done? Cowboy up, be tough. All that crap we hear sometimes when we're growing up or in society. Do better, be better. All this, it can be a positive, effective belief system of, well, you need to put one foot in front of the other if you want to get down the road. But sometimes you just want to sit down beside the road, maybe stretch out and look at the sky. Just watch the clouds go by, or listen to the river next to the road. Sometimes you just don't feel like getting down the road. Sometimes you just feel like sitting around and maybe sipping on some hot cocoa, eating a piece of pie, and watching your favorite movie that maybe you've seen 100 times. Whatever it is you choose to do, it's perfectly okay. You don't have to push, you don't have to struggle. And there's another important principle, and that's why I started this channel, is that we live in a conscious universe. Now, when I was there was a perception that I was taken out of my body at one point after a car accident, that now I understand it was just my consciousness shifting focus from the human perspective to another one. But during that path and that experience, I realized and saw that everything was consciousness. There was animals and plants that showed up and visited me, and as closer I got, the more I saw that they were made out of just energy and light, and that there was something else that was just binding that together, and that was the consciousness of the bee itself. And that's what we live in. We live in consciousness. Everything is consciousness. So if we pay attention to what our consciousness needs, how we're feeling and how we're thinking, then we are becoming, let these cars go by. If we're paying attention to how we think and how we feel, then we're listening to how we can become more coherent with ourselves. Because everything is ourselves. You might not like to think this, that the person that you don't like that's down the block or on the other side of the planet or wherever they are, some target of your judgment, is not you, but everything is one. We look at everything through our human perspective, and that creates separation. This coat of mine is separate from my scarf, and my body's separate from the river, and my body's separate from the trees and the biker going by, the stones up on the cliff. Our human perspective thinks that everything is separate, but that's all an illusion. Science has proved this over and over and over again. If you want to investigate it, I would advise looking into the Monroe Institute, works of Thomas Campbell, and what they do over there with that atom smasher over in Europe that's cost something like $100 billion to make. Their conclusion has arrived at the consciousness affects reality. And if we are easy on ourselves when we're not feeling that great, what we're saying is, I'm conscious that I exist in a universe that is an extension of myself, and I'm letting it know that I'm honoring myself in this moment to feel what I feel, to think what I think, and to give myself a break, trusting that everything is going to be okay. Trusting that whatever it is that I think I need to do doesn't have to be done at this exact moment. Now, that doesn't mean that you should just be, a person that has no focus or goals. Obviously, that is not inspiration. That's one of the characteristics of this consciousness we live in, is it has inspired thought. That's what unconditional love is simply the consciousness of all that is inspired to explore itself. And if we are inspired to explore ourselves as human beings, we are mimicking what that consciousness is doing itself through us. And it's all one consciousness. And it's okay. Have you ever seen now this trip I went on here? I was out in a kayak once up in Canada, and I'm not a big kayaker, so don't assume that, oh, let's go kayaking because Stefan knows what he's doing. No, I'm not a big kayaker. In fact, when I reflect back, I'm glad I never tipped over, because I don't know if I would have been able to figure out, other than skinnying out of the boat, how to turn myself over. But anyway, I was on a nice, calm, glass-like surface, floating through a Canadian inlet, and I had the surprise of a sea lion sticking his head up right next to me. I could have reached out and touched him. And I don't know if you know what a sea lion is, but it's basically a bear of the ocean. I mean, that thing weighs like 1,600 pounds or something. So, but anyway, he was fine. He was just checking me out. But then I noticed over on some rocks, there were some seals. And those seals were just laying around. They were just having a good old time. And one of the seals was, he had formed a sort of a shape like a inverted C. Only the middle of his body was touching on the rock that was sticking out of the ocean. And so his head was suspended, his little bottom flippers, and his tail was suspended. And I don't know why he was doing this. Maybe he had watched some exercise program and saw that doing crunches or something like that would help his core strength. And that might be something I need to do at some point, but I'm not going to worry about it today because I don't feel like it. But anyway, that little seal was just sitting there like that, and he sat there like that for as long as I watched him. And he started making this funny noise. He started going, and so I did that back. And he did it back. And so I thought, well, this can't be a coincidence that we're doing it back and forth. So I did 2 of those sounds, and then he did 2 of those sounds. And you know, he could have been swimming in the ocean, looking for fish. He could have been talking to his friends that were not far from him on the other rocks. He could have been exploring some parts of the ocean where there might be better eating, more food. He could have been thinking about migration and things to do in that regards. No, he just decided, today I'm just going to sit here on this rock and do this little funny exercise and make fun of the tourists coming by. And that's what he decided to do. And it was a very entertaining, wonderful thing to do. And it may be that you might decide today or some other time that you're just not going to go do all those things that you could be doing. Instead of maybe, pushing real hard to get stuff done, you might just decide you're going to take a break and go down to the coffee shop. And then you end up having a nice conversation with a stranger. Or on your way down there, you find maybe a quarter on the ground. Or you might have the idea to go to the library and find a good book. There's all kinds of things that can happen when we just listen to ourselves and honor what we're feeling. Because what happens is that instead of the voice, our ego in our head saying all these things like, well, you got to get this stuff done, break out your list and check things off, what are people going to think, I'm not a good enough person unless I'm doing this. Instead of all that crap going on in your head, you finally just let go and said, I'm just going to take a break. And then that's an empty space. There's none of that noise in your head, and you know that the universe abhors a vacuum. At least, I think that's what they say. Anyway, it likes to fill space. And we humans do too. As soon as you move into a house, you're going to fill it up with all kinds of stuff. And that's the way our consciousness is. If we open up an empty space within ourselves, then new ideas, new inspirations, new feelings, just the feeling of relaxing fills your inner being if you allow it. So, if today you just feel awful, or you just don't feel like doing anything, or you feel unmotivated, or you feel, just sad about something, or you just don't feel good, well, just take a break. Don't listen to anybody else or what they're telling you, unless, this is happening often. Then you might want to think about, well, maybe they are telling me I need to go do this or need to go do that. Because there can be things that can make us chronically, not want to do things. But like chronic depression or just chronic fears and anxieties. Perhaps a person is just completely terrified by the fact that they would have to leave their residence. I mean, some people suffer from this. So, but we're not talking about those things today. We're talking about just, if you're just feeling on the spot that, I just cannot motivate myself to go have lunch with, the guys or the girls or whatever, or I can't motivate myself to go out there and, do work in the yard, or I can't motivate myself to finish my sewing project, or I can't motivate myself to work in the car, or, stay late to work, then, and if it involves another person, just communicate. We all enjoy honesty and authenticity. And as long as we're offering that as well as a solution, then usually what we're asking is received. If you just don't feel like staying late at work, as an example, talk to your boss and say, I really need to communicate that I appreciate the opportunity you've given me here and I enjoy working here. And I know that you want me to work later, but I just don't have it in me to do so. For whatever reason, I just don't feel good. Or whatever it is. So, and if you're a parent with lots of youngsters running around, or you're a teacher and you got lots of kids running around, it might be a matter of rearranging the curriculum of the day. Maybe if you're a teacher and you got a bunch of kids that you were going to go on this big thing outside, do all these big projects, and it's going to involve other stuff, but there's an opportunity to instead teach the kids how to meditate. So it's a quiet day. It's an opportunity for all the kids to learn about being quiet, maybe do some drawing, but so it serves them and yourself. But if we give ourselves a chance to just sort of take a break, then that allows us to have space within ourselves to invite other ideas, and then see if those ideas are something that feels right, and just enjoy those ideas. Maybe it's eating a bowl of ice cream on some hot, warm, fresh baked brownies, watching your favorite movie. Maybe it's drawing or painting. Maybe it's going fishing. So, if you're just not up for it, that's okay. If you're ambitious, that's great. I think most people are pretty ambitious. They want to live a good life. But the habits that we have can create an inertia, what I call mesmeric inertia. We become mesmerized by the inertia of our own lives. And those can create sort of a system in our life that sort of controls what we do. But it's ourselves doing it. There's nobody else forcing us. We're just choosing every day to do the same thing. Now, if that inertia of yours is to climb Mount Everest, then go for it. But if you don't feel like it today, just take a break. Maybe study the map. Look at the effects of high elevations on blood pressure, and maybe plan out your meal plans, or contact some of the people that you need to hire to work with you. Do something that is that you're still interested in, but maybe doesn't require as much energy. Or if you're wanting to start a company and you're just gung-ho to do that, that's great. But if you just don't feel like it today, find a broken down version that sits with you. Something that you're willing to do today, because all the rest of the stuff you're going to have to do anyway, because you're going to be a success. So that's going to take some time. It's going to take practice of every day getting up and doing that. Just like me coming out here and doing these videos, they're only going to get done if I come out here and do them. But, you know, some days I feel like doing them and some days I don't. Yesterday I had no interest in doing a video. I worked all day. I went home. I had other things to do. And I just thought, you know, it's raining anyway. I'm just not going to do a video. And, but today I got up, I thought, you know, it sounds like a fun idea. Just come out here and shoot a video next to the river. Maybe there's something that I say that would make somebody feel a little better or give them a small amount of insight that they can use. So that was something that I felt good about, and that's why I'm doing it. But if you don't feel like doing what is drawing you forward, whether it's mesmeric inertia, the spell of your own habits, or it's an adventure that you've decided to build, like some big company, or, you know, whatever it is, but you just don't feel like it today, it's perfectly okay. Just take a break, sit back, and do something that you enjoy, that feels good in the core of your being, that you can align yourself with. Thank you.